Most people who eat fish feel like they are making a healthy choice, but not all fish are equal. Some of the cheap tins available are better for you than the pricey fillets in the fridge. With lots of options at the supermarket, it's more important than ever to understand the difference. So we've spent weeks researching the 6 best tinned fish to buy in the UK. Every one of them contains powerful nutrients that offer serious everyday health benefits. The added bonus here is they're all actually affordable. At the end, we'll also show you how to get a complete 2026 supermarket guide with every fish type and brand ranked on price and quality. First up on our list, salmon. Most people reach for the fresh fillet, assuming it's the better fish. But it isn't always. Tinned salmon is canned very soon after the catch, often the same day it's caught, cooked and sealed at its peak. That locks in the fish's condition and its nutrients. The fresh salmon in the aisle, by contrast, has usually spent days moving through the supply chain, caught, transported, distributed, then left sitting on the counter. The tin was sealed the day it was caught. The fillet's been on the road for a week, so in reality the tin is often the fresher fish. Another thing that puts people off tinned salmon is the fact that it has bones inside. Bones in your food sound like a bad thing, but with salmon, the goodness is in the bones. The canning process softens the bones, so by the time you open the tin, they're soft enough to eat. And you should eat them, because that's where the calcium is. Eating a small tin of salmon, bones and all, gives you more calcium than a standard glass of milk, around 277 milligrams in a single tin. So the person buying the skinless, boneless fillet to be healthy is actually paying more to throw the best part in the bin. But before you fill your cupboards with tinned salmon, there's something you should know. Nearly every tin of salmon has salt added, that's just how it's canned, so if you're keeping an eye on your blood pressure, drain off the liquid before you use it and go easy on the salt. Then there's one tinned fish, eaten just twice a week, that's been shown to move people's diabetes risk the way they'd hope a tablet would, and it costs pennies. It's the sardine, and it gives you everything salmon does for far less money. In 2021, a year-long trial studied 152 adults over 65 with early signs of diabetes. They added just 2 tins of sardines a week to a standard diet. The group, classified as very high risk, fell from 37% to 7.7%. The group that didn't have sardines added to their diet barely dropped their risk at all. And the likely reason wasn't the omega-3 everyone talks about, it was taurine. Now, that's just one study, but a fish that costs pennies nudging the odds like that is hard to ignore. Sardines are small, short-lived, and feed at the bottom of the food chain, which means they barely build up any mercury. And that's why the FDA puts them in its top best choices tier. They're one of the safest fish you can eat. And if you're wondering where to buy them, the 2 cheapest are Aldi's and Tesco's own brands, both around 49 pence a tin. But you're covered wherever you shop. Stick to the supermarket's own brand and you'll pay well under £1 almost anywhere. To see a full comparison of prices and quality of the fishes mentioned, click the link in the description for our free 2026 ebook. Now, if you look next to the sardines, you'll usually see a tin labelled Pilchards, the old-fashioned tin your gran may have kept at the back of the cupboard. But a pilchard and a sardine are the exact same fish. The only difference is age. A small young one is sold as a sardine. Once it grows bigger, the very same fish becomes a pilchard. So why does one sound like a holiday and the other like rationing? That's because in 1997, a Cornish fish merchant did some market research and found that pilchard made people picture tins and tomato sauce, while sardine made them picture the Mediterranean. So he started selling the exact same Cornish fish as sardines, and sales reportedly climbed by nearly a fifth. Completely above board, too. The law reserves the word sardine for this precise fish, which means the tin still labelled Pilchards is identical. The same omega-3, the same calcium, the same B12, often for half the money. You're paying double for the friendlier name. So that's 2 of the cheapest tins on the shelf taken care of. But the next one beats all of them for the single vitamin your body gets worse at absorbing the older you get. From age 60, a lot of us quietly stop absorbing enough B12. And the best fix in the shop is a 50 pence tin of Kippers. A kipper is just a herring that's been smoked and split, the old-fashioned British breakfast your parents probably grew up on. And what most people don't know is that it holds more B12 than anything else in the aisle. B12 keeps your nerves, your blood and your brain working as they should. The catch is the absorbing. As you age, your stomach makes less of the acid that frees B12 from your food. An estimated 1 in 10 older adults is quietly running low. And low B12 doesn't announce itself. It turns up as tiredness. The pins and needles in your hands and feet, the name that won't come to you and the balance that isn't quite what it was, the very things we tend to write off as just getting older. A single tin of Kippers gives you several times your daily B12, comfortably more than a week's worth in one go, which very few foods come close to achieving. And it's not just the B12, you get vitamin D for your bones and the same omega-3 as the rest, which all matter more with age. So while plenty of people reach for energy drinks and B12 tablets to shift that tiredness, the answer's been sitting in the tinned aisle the whole time. One honest note: if your body is really struggling to absorb B12, food alone might not be enough. That's a conversation for your GP. But as a source, a Kipper is about as good as it gets. The one thing to watch is salt. Kippers are smoked, so they're on the salty side. If you're minding your blood pressure, reach for plain herring fillets in spring water instead, or drain the tin well and skip the extra salt. Now, before we crown the winner, there is another tinned fish that most people are convinced they hate, but it might just be the healthiest of the whole lot. And that fish is the anchovy. Plenty of people are sure they can't stand them, but here's the twist. You've almost certainly been eating them for years without knowing it. That deep, savoury note in Worcestershire sauce, the bottle that sat in your cupboard for years, that's anchovy, quietly doing its work. It's in a Caesar dressing too, and stirred through different types of pasta sauce, because an anchovy doesn't taste fishy when it's cooked into something. It dissolves away completely, and what it leaves behind is pure savouriness, the same more-ish depth you'd get from a good stock. That flavour is natural glutamate, the thing our tongues read as savoury, and the anchovy is loaded with it. And ounce for ounce, it's one of the most nutrient-dense fish in the sea, among the highest in omega-3 by weight, one of the lowest in mercury, and because you eat the whole little fish, bones and all, a bit of calcium too. In one large study, regularly eating small whole fish like these was linked to living longer, especially in women. Now, the honest bit, anchovies are salty, properly salty, so you'd never sit down to a whole tin, but that's exactly what makes them so useful. Instead of reaching for the salt, melt one anchovy into your cooking. You get that savoury depth, and you can pull the salt right back. In studies, that kind of natural savouriness lets people use around a quarter less salt with no loss of flavour, which is a real win if you're watching your blood pressure. So don't think of anchovies as a fish to eat by the tin. Think of them as the healthiest seasoning in your cupboard. A jar keeps for months, and a single fillet can lift a whole dish. But the best tinned fish of all is the most humble: mackerel. It's the one that never gets a second look. No fancy label, no premium price, usually sitting on the bottom shelf for around £1. But that cheap, unglamorous tin carries more omega-3 than anything else on the shelf. Generally more than the sardines, more than the Kippers. Roughly twice what's in a tin of salmon. At a fraction of the price. There's a catch worth knowing at the shelf, though. The mackerel with the very most omega-3 tends to be the smoked and peppered ones, and those are also the saltiest tins you can buy. So for the best of both, reach for plain mackerel fillets in oil, eat the oil rather than draining it away. That's where a lot of the omega-3 ends up, and just make sure it says Atlantic mackerel, not king mackerel, which is the one high mercury exception. And this isn't just about a number on a nutrition label. In one study, people with slightly raised blood pressure who ate plenty of mackerel saw their blood pressure, their cholesterol, and their triglycerides all come down. It's a small study, but it lines up with everything we know about omega-3. And if you buy fish oil capsules for exactly this, your body absorbs the omega-3 from the fish, at least as well as it does from a pill, and the tin also gives you protein, B12 and calcium a capsule never will, for far less than a tub of supplements. So, think about what that means. You might be spending good money on tinned fish and getting almost none of the omega-3 you're paying for. That was true, but only because nobody points you to the right tin. Because the most omega-3 on the shelf, the EPA and DHA, your body can't make and can't get anywhere else, isn't the fresh fillet and isn't an expensive tub of fish oil capsules. It's the cheapest tin in the aisle. The healthiest fish in the aisle is the one on the bottom shelf, the one you walk straight past. So skip the fresh counter, skip the pills, and just buy the tin. And because the brand you pick changes everything, the omega-3, the salt, the price, We've put together a complete guide to the best UK tinned fish in every supermarket, so you get the quality without ever overpaying. It's linked in the description. If this helped, a like and a subscribe genuinely help us reach more people looking after their health and their budget. Thanks for watching.